Welcome back to Lenz Movie Review, episode 150. Talking about Amazing Spider-Man 2. Coming out in the year of 2015, roughly 6 years ago. And it's because of this film we have Spider-Man in the MCU. Well, I'll explain a little bit more about, throughout this particular video, I'm discussing some of the dumb stuff related to this movie. Not only that, but what happened with Sony related to this movie. Because it's pretty bad. Okay, with this film, there's many negative things toward it. Here's some positives. Andrew Garfield's chemistry with every single character in the movie, with the exception of Daniel Hahn, aka Harry Osborn. Yes, there's that. There is the special effects, they're actually really good. Dialogue is not bad, per se. And love locations. One of the locations that goes to the movie is a location I've actually been to. There's a location we have, because I've been in Times Square, there's this little step thing they have in the movie. That is an actual location. I personally have been to it. Though I think I went to it, I think it was before or after this movie was made. Yes. Now, there was a list of things, basically, that Marvel told Sony, do not do this, and they ignored it. Now, aside from Daniel Hahn playing Harry Osborn, and as you can see by the damn cover, he plays the Green Goblin. We also have Max Dillon, aka Electro, played by Jamie Foxx, which I know the guy's coming back for No Way Home. It's basically the third movie coming out, I believe, this year. We also have Alistair Smythe is in this movie. Yes, Alistair Smythe, the creator of the Spider Slayers, is just a name-only character. He has nothing to do with Spider Slayers. He pops a couple times in the movie, and he's just a jerk to Electro. We have a Felicia Hardy in the movie, except she's not the Black Cat. She is the president of the company, who was not Harry Osborn, is secretary. Yes. This woman's name is Felicia, and it's kind of confirmed this woman is Felicia Hardy. We have Gustav Graves in here, and this movie is basically notorious not only for ignoring stuff Marvel has done, there's not to do, but it's basically a lot of people tend to accuse this movie, and it is just pure setup for a Sinister Six movie, which, from what I've heard, Sony still wants to do that. And they also wanted to do a movie for Black Cat and Silver Sable, which I've heard that's still happening. And an Aunt May movie. Yes, a movie got canceled because Marvel realized that was stupid. Now, one of the dumb things about the movie, I do agree with this. This was really dumb. We have the ghost of George Stacy show in the movie several times. Doesn't say anything. Why the heck he's here? No idea. It is by far one of the most annoying things about this movie. And it's okay, he tells him to stay away from Gwen, despite the fact they're in a relationship. Oh yeah, and also last movie, Peter wanted to have sex with Gwen. And she's like, really? You know what you're doing? He's like, yeah, I know what I'm doing. Doesn't really happen. There's still a couple per se, and several times in the movie, it seems as though they want to break up, but they can't, per se. Also, this movie basically kind of spoiled a lot of stuff that happened in the movie. Well, there is one other character I should talk about briefly here, and that's the frickin' Rhino. Yes, Rhino. Oh my gosh, this character. I do agree with the criticism of this guy. Oh my gosh, his suit is fine when he comes around in the movie. But wow, his dialogue is terrible. He's basically Alex Silvestri. He's basically the guy who becomes a Rhino. And when he opens his mouth, it is so terrible. Okay, I get the fact that Paul Giamatti is a great actor. No denying that. But should have gave him a lot more better dialogue. The piece of garbage he basically was spewing out of his mouth. Which apparently, because Peter was late for his graduation ceremony. And they also kind of hint to the fact that possibly the Parkers are not only scientists, but also spies. Excuse me, they kept contradicting themselves to come to this movie. Are they spies? Or are they, scientists? Well, Peter does get his hands on a little subway token, which my dad basically does confirm those do exist. He did use subway tokens. And he has sort of his own base, per se, which I think he also had in the last movie as well. Now, what... Oh, yeah, and also, they updated the suit for the movie. Because the last movie, from a criticism I heard, not when the thing was coming out, this video I saw several years later, apparently it looked like Spider-Man had a belt, and the video game they kind of fixed this, and this movie they kind of did. He did have a belt, definitely, but it was underneath his shirt, like it's supposed to be. So... The thing with Peter Parker and Harry Osborn, him and Dae Doo-han, a lot of people pointed this out. These two have got zero chemistry with each other. Their scenes are terrible. And the writer is trying to force the fact that Harry Osborn is his friend. Okay? If that's the case, why didn't you have him appear in the last movie? Yes. So... Max Dillon was introduced as this nerdy guy who's a big fan of Spider-Man, which, okay, that's different. I didn't have a problem with this scene, per se. Oh, yeah, there's a guy. And then comes another scene that I hated when I saw this movie. I thought the movie wasn't that bad. Later on, yeah, I realized it was terrible. This scene, from what I heard, was basically a scene Marvel told Tony, do not do this stupid scene because it's terrible. It's this scene of... Basically, Max Dillon is saying happy birthday to himself, and he opens his fridge, and there is his own birthday cake. And basically, today, that particular day is his birthday. I'm like, yeah. When this scene came up, when I originally saw it, I'm like, yeah, this scene sucks. I'm going to the bathroom at this point. Because I hated this scene. It is by far, like, I think for a lot of people, it's the most hated scene in the whole movie, with the exception of the ending. Yep, and then later on, when he becomes Electro, apparently no one wants to help him. Everybody's being dick about it for no reason at all. Like, hey man, can you help me? It's like, nah, I'm basically exiting the building. I'm like, really? You can't come back for 5 minutes to help him solve this little electrical problem? By the way, he was told to do this by Alistair Smythe. And I do at least appreciate, though, of how he got his powers, per se. At least the start of it, per se, because, well... Max Dillon in the comics was an electrician. Here, electrical engineer. It's a very similar profession, but at least works with something electronic and wires. This one I think also involves freaking electrical eels for some reason. And then his skin turns blue, and he also changes his voice. And he tries to Spider-Man a few times, and eventually starts teaming up with Harry Osborn. Now, this movie also had one of the biggest scenes, aside from the stupid Max Dillon singing scene. Killing off Norman Osborn. Yes, you briefly see him at the beginning of the movie, and then he dies off screen. Yes, this was something that Marvel told Sony, do not do this, and they ignored them. And so, we have Harry Osborn having this mysterious disease that is slowly killing him. Like, how... did he get this disease? I get the fact his father had it. Probably his age probably did. But Harry? He's a freaking teenager. How the heck did he get this disease? It's implied it's genetic. And at one point he contacts Spider-Man to ask for a sample of his DNA. He says no. Then he goes freaking nuts. Gives him some formula. And then he transforms into supposedly the Green Goblin. Like, this could be loosely inspired by the Ultimate version. It's almost like... when you see this look, you're like, wow, that's such... It's like, the thing with the Green Goblin effect is that it's incomplete. Yes, I have pointed this out since this movie came out, that the Green Goblin effect of this movie was incomplete. Like, they didn't want to finish because probably Dae Doo-han didn't want to put on a freaking mask, or he didn't feel like having his face covered for reasons. Oh, and here's the thing. How is Electro dealt with? He is murdered by Spider-Man into electrical stuff at his clock tower with Gwen Stacy. Yeah, he kills him. And then, like, not long after that, like, oh crap, here comes the Green Goblin. And they fight. And then like, they do this sort of very nod to Death of Gwen Stacy, where Perry tries to get her with webbing. Yes, his webbing. And he catches her by the waist, and that somehow kills her. But it's completely by accident. Of course, Peter goes grieving after this. Yes. from what I heard, and a lot of people pointed this out, apparently, when the trailers are coming out, Sony spoiled this scene in the damn trailers. For some reason, they couldn't keep anything a secret, because they kept spoiling the whole damn movie in the trailers. Like, at least the case the first movie wasn't, like, all spoiler heavy, like many plot points were dumped in damn trailers. This movie, apparently, they did do that. Yes, which, I agree, this was stupid. And eventually he is defeated, and he is hauled off of all places frickin' Ravencroft. And by the way, they do have Dr. Ashley Kafka in the movie. Do they have some smoking hot woman playing here? No, Ashley Kafka is played by a guy. Seriously? Like, could you not find a woman to play Ashley Kafka? It's a woman, not a frickin' guy. Why the heck did they gender swap this character? Makes no frickin' sense at all. And then, of course, Gustav Graves, aka the Gentleman, basically goes to this place in Oscorp Tower, walks past the Vulture's wings, Dr. Octopus's arms, and a frickin' rhino suit, and have this really crappy scene in the movie where, apparently, get this, according to John Campy, I do agree with criticism, these extras suck. These extras are not selling the fact that a guy is firing a machine gun off in front of them, and they're not even reacting to it. Like, what are we supposed to do here? Yeah, it's like these people are complete brain dead or something. And then you have an apparent fight between Spider-Man and Rhino to end the movie. I'm like, really? That's how you end your garbage movie? Wow. Oh, boy. Yeah, no wonder why this movie is so bad. Oh, by the way, the executive who was charged of the company, yeah, he's later killed by frickin' Electro. Yep. Now, here's something quite interesting, though. Because the flack this movie got, this movie, well, the character was licensed to Marvel. How was this accomplished? Via a secret deal. Now, how did the public find out about this? The answer is the Sony email leaks that happened back in 2015. And this was not the only movie affected by this news. Apparently, the ending of Spectre was affected by this too. Yes, Spectre released the same year. That I did not know this until Calvin Dyson pointed this on his review. That apparently the ending of that movie, the reason apparently was changed due to the emo hacks. Yep. So that's how we got Spider-Man in the MCU. And this movie, it is agreed upon that, well, Sony basically just did a terrible job with this. And they probably should not have done another Spider-Man, though they technically did do another one a couple years later. I think about 3 years later with Spider-Man Homecoming, which that one was a co-production with Marvel Studios. Because even they realized, though, once they saw Amazing Spider-Man 2, like, yeah, we're not going to let you guys do this movie alone anymore, this character. We're going to be sharing it, and we're going to produce it ourselves, but you guys can release it yourselves. But they did release one more movie. 6 years later. Yes. And that'll be the topic of episode 151. A much better movie than this piece of garbage, Venom. Now, this movie, if you're curious though, like, what was the box office for this movie? Like, oh, good gosh, basically the box office. Let's see. This movie's gross was $709 million against a $293 budget. That's not bad. Considered a critical hit per se, but not for the actual box office stuff. I mean, it's up from the last. It's actually a bit lower than the last one. Last movie was like Amazing Spider-Man 1, $757.9 million, while this one was like, it's like $50 million. It's basically a big drop up. Still a big. It's still a financial hit for Sony, but critic wise, it was a critical flop. Heavy. Oh my gosh, basically, this was. Now, I saw this with a friend of mine. I didn't actually like the movie. He hated this movie. He thought the movie was freaking terrible. Which, looking back on it, yes, I do agree with that. It is freaking terrible. Yep. And yes, Stan Lee does make a cameo in the movie. I don't remember what it was, basically. It's not exactly very memorable. He does make a cameo in the next movie. Now, it's going to be Venom. Yes, I'll talk about Venom in episode 151. But it's something, though, that I just happen to discuss this piece of garbage of a movie for episode 150. By far, one of the worst superhero movies in the last 20 years, Amazing Spider-Man 2. A movie that's so hated, and I don't think Mark Webb basically was the problem. Oh no, I think it was many other factors. Now you're probably curious though, did he do another movie after this one? Yes, only 2. He did Gifted. This came out in 2014. I thought it was 2015, excuse me. Yeah, he did Gifted 3 years later, and his last movie he did was Only Boy Living in New York 4 years ago. So he only did 2 movies. But prior to this movie and the first movie, he only did 500 Days of Summer back in 2009. Yeah. I mean, it's nothing against him as a director. I think directing-wise, the movie was done fine. It's just that the story itself was not that good. And what he did with the characters was awful. And it is something, though, he didn't come back to do any other superhero movie. At least Sam Raimi is. Of course, he's doing Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, which I'm looking forward to that. Yep. But this kind of almost wraps all the Sony-era Spider movies. There's still one left, Venom, and that'll be pretty much it for Sony. Like, basically after that, there'll be 2 movies that we'll discuss. And those are from Fox for a completely different franchise. Now, the movie that I'm not going to discuss because I haven't seen it yet. Excuse me. But I will discuss those in episodes now 151 and Venom 52 and 53. 2 films of a film series that not very well liked by a lot of people. Okay? To the video. Bye.